Hello everyone. So in this video I want to talk about BRXProd or Bricks productivity and show an example of actually just using it to make some decisions and create content. So a lot of what I've been displaying is features. I want to show you how I would actually use it to create some reusable content in Bricks. My name is Alan from BRXProd and WP-Easy. What you have on the screen at the moment is a editor with nothing set up except for we've imported the framework, the Bricks wireframes framework. We've done some basic color settings and we have BRXProd installed, but a blank page ready to go. And when you got a blank page, normally with Bricks you've got two ways you can add a section, which is clicking on the section on the left panel here or clicking the plus in the center if it is an empty section. What BRXProd does is it brings that closer to the structure panel, so we can add a section just by clicking this button here, which is the third option. And what you would see in the editor, once you've added a section, you no longer have the option to add a section in the middle there. You can click on this little plus and add sections from there as well. That's another option for you. Or you can come back over to the side here and add a section there. I like having the section just right there above my structure there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work through and I'm not sure where this is going to go yet. I'm just going to work through and create maybe a home hero with some content in it and show you how I would structure that, how I'd create the classes, how I would style it, how I'd separate things into atomic components. And then if we get some time, we'll actually turn those into actual Bricks components and show you how we do that with variations or variants using BEM class variants. Okay, so let's get started. I'm actually working from a small laptop screen here so you guys can see more of it. So normally I'd be working from a larger screen. I have a lot more screen real estate where I'd move things around, but I'm going to work from this laptop screen so that's a bit easier for you guys to see in the video. So I'm with this home hero, and this is the first thing you want to do is you want to get your naming of your elements in your structure panel done really well, and then it makes it really easy for controlling and naming at a later stage. So I'm going to go to container. I'm going to call this my header. I'm going to then duplicate that twice. I'll call that my media, and I'll call it my footer. And what you'll see immediately is we're in a section and we've got three containers and we've got spacing between them. If we have a look in our settings in Bricks, we're going to look at our theme elements and we have a look at our section container here. The section by default has container gap to separate our containers. Okay, the block on the other hand, whoops, look at the block. The block has content gap to separate its contents inside, and I think the container itself also has container gap as well. So if you've got a container and you put blocks inside of it, so I'm going to show you what I mean. We've got a container here. If I put block, 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 I get the container gap inside there. So see that gap's exactly the same everywhere. But if I change that structure, if I added a block here, put the block at the top there, inside that block I put block, 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 we get a different gap, which is our content gap. So these two elements here, the container and the block, automatically have some gap on it, which is a lot easier than just adding and trying to think, is that a container gap, is that a content gap? It's just easier to just use the right component for it. Okay, in this case I'm going to use containers. What am I going to put in my header? I'm going to put in a typical thing you'd have in a header is a title block. So I'm going to create that. I'm going to do a block. Inside that block, I'm going to do a heading. I'll call this title block. In our heading, title block heading, let's add a component inside here. So we're going to create this title block as an atomic component or atomic structure, and then we're going to have a button group as an atomic structure inside of that. Now when I mean atomic, it's reusable, it looks the same, it behaves the same wherever you use it. So I'm going to add a div for my buttons, call that dual button, and I'm zooming through this because I've done it before. If you've got to stop and think about it, it can take more time. You just need to sit and think about what does this actually do and what should I call it based on what it actually does. So I'm going to add 2 buttons using my U and U, so my keyboard shortcuts that I'm using here. So a dual button with 2 buttons in it. That's pretty simple. I'm ready to AutoBEM that. Click, click, and we have our dual button. We have our buttons have dual button, button, so underscore button, which makes it an element. If we want to check that, we can check the AutoBEM audit, and we have a dual button as a block, and then we got a button and a button as elements with the correct naming on them. Okay, so that's a really simple one. And what else might we put in it? Let's put it in the eyebrow. I'm going to actually use a div for the eyebrow because I'm going to turn this into a component a little bit later. I'm going to call this my eyebrow. And inside my eyebrow, I'm just going to add a basic text and call this eyebrow text. Okay, so we've got another structure in here which we can use. So I'm going to AutoBEM, and that's done the eyebrow. So we've got the eyebrow, and then we've got the eyebrow text as a component, as a element from our eyebrow. So that's all done. In a media, we're going to actually call these wrappers. Media wrapper. I'll call this the header wrapper. In our footer wrapper, our media, we're just going to add an eye. We'll call it our feature image. So I'm using my keyboard shortcuts here, and you can access those through the element shortcuts. You can see what they are. You can create your own, edit this, whatever you want. We can also enable the panel for it, which is element shortcuts, and you can enable that and put that wherever you want as well. But I like the real estate here to be nice and clean. Okay, footer wrapper, we're just going to add a basic text, and we'll just call this footer text. Okay. We've got a pretty reasonable structure going on here. I think that's all we need. It is. So I'm going to now go to the top level. I'm going to click AutoBEM. I'm going to go AutoBEM again. And it's going to warn me that it's found a label eyebrow with a class eyebrow, which means that that is a matching BEM block. So what we're doing is we're matching the class to the label. If the label normalizes to a BEM name, then we consider that to be a BEM block, BEM element, whatever it is. And if our eyebrow doesn't look any different in our home hero than it does anywhere else, we do not want to create elements of that. So we don't want to create a home hero eyebrow. We just want to leave eyebrow on its own as an atomic structure that we do not want to style differently just because it's in the home hero, so we don't want to BEM it. Same with our dual button. If you do, you hit OK to BEM, and what that will do, that will create a home hero __ dual button. Home hero __ button. So it's going to create elements there if you say it's OK to BEM, which we don't want to do because we don't want this to look any different in our home hero than we do anywhere else. So hit proceed, and then this time we see these little red markers next to those two. If we look at that and have a look at our AutoBEM, it's on do not BEM, and we can change our mind on that later if we want to. Okay, so we have some structure ready to go. Our heading should be H1 by default here. Our eyebrow, let's put some eyebrow text in there. I'll say fancy eyebrow. Okay, fancy eyebrow. All right, let's start actually creating some atomic styling out of this. So here's our dual button. We go to the dual button, and we've got nothing on that class at the moment here. So we're using our CSS feature panel, which is a paid feature with BRXProd. If you don't have that, you're going to have to use the Brix CSS styling on the elements, but you can do exactly the same thing. The AutoBEM is part of free BRXProd. The CSS panel we're going to use here is part of the paid version. Okay, so on our dual button, what do we actually want to do? I'm going to do a capital R, and when we do that, we get a ghost hint. So I'm going to press Tab, and that gives us our root with our block. We want in our button, we want the display. If I just type dis, I get a type ahead of everything that matches. So I get dis and direction there if I do DI. But if I DISP, It matches a ghost hint, which is an expansion. I just press tab and it completes that for me. And we want this to be a display flex, FLE tab. So we can do FLEX if we want to. FLE tab does that for us. We get a helper. We want our helper here with a button. We want to be a row, and we want to center our items. And the idea of that is if the buttons are different sizes, they're going to be centered. So you can change that to whatever you want it to be. And we want to add a gap of our gap, which will be our content gap. And there is a basic dual button done. We'll come back to this later and we'll add some additional properties to this and we'll turn it into a reusable component in Bricks if we get some time. So there's a very basic dual button setup, right? We will then go to our eyebrow and we're going to start setting some stuff up here. So we can do R tab and let's do a display of flex, and let's just do that as a column to start with. And we're going to set a bunch of defaults here. So we're going to do L, H, and anything you can think of. Line height, you type the first two letters, LH. Text align, TA. Grid template columns, GTC. Or if it's a single word, you just start typing the word and see what comes up in your hints here. But LH, tab 1. Okay, what else do we want? FW, tab normal. Okay, FS, tab text. We can do inherit. I'm just going to text M. Whatever you want to set these defaults to. TT, text transform, uppercase. Okay, it's just made it uppercase. LS for letter spacing, 3px. Okay, what else might we want to do later? Let's do some color. COL, inherit. Inherit's not in the type of heads. Okay, what else do we want? Background, BG. We'll do is transparent. Actually, transparent should also be in the type of heads, which we'll do later. What is my linting there? Spelt transparent wrong. There we go. So linting. So I've spelt transparent wrong. It's going, hey, that's not a valid value. Okay, that's another really useful thing that we've got in this editor here. Now it's a correct value. Background. Border. None. BDR. 0. Border radius, that is. 0. What else do we want? BS. None. So we're just setting this up so we can create variants down the track. Order of 0. And we can create variants on this down the track. Very simple, right? So there's our eyebrow done. Now I'm putting it on the div, not on the text box, because we're going to turn this into a component later and we need to be able to do that, and you can't make components out of singular elements. They have to be container elements like a div block, section, div block, or container. Okay, so there we have an atomic group there for our eyebrow. Let's do the same with our title block. Let's create a group there. I'm going to do that. Have we created that? We have. Actually, I'm just looking at this. I've done that wrong. Because our title block can also be its own atomic structure. So I should not have actually created these. I'm going to actually remove those. We got any other title block? Home hero heading. We'll remove that as well. We didn't get it on there, there. Media wrapper, that's okay. In our title block, we don't have a class. The heading doesn't have a class. The eyebrow doesn't have a class. That's good. So in our title block here, we're now going to AutoBEM, and it's just given us two classes, which is the title block and the heading. Okay, and that's exactly what we want. So on our title block, I'm going to now do a R. I'm going to do display of flex, and I'm going to set that to be a singular column because we just want this to all line up underneath each other. And we're going to use our flex tool here to set our align items to center. And we're going to do a text align TA of center. Okay, oops. Okay, what else do we need in there? That's about it. I'm going to come back and show you how to turn these into reusable components using variants as well a little bit later. So we're getting set up here, right? So let's grab a image for our media. What do you got? Maybe this thing here. That will do us. And in our footer wrapper, we've got some footer text. That's okay. All right. So what we're going to look at here is we've got more than just this header wrapper here that we want to, or the title block here that we want to control the centering of. So we're going to start from the top. I'm going to go up to the top here. I'm going to go on the title. I'm going to go R, display of flex. It's a flex column. And let's do our align. So we're going to do align, center, and TA, center. Okay. We now have a problem because our media wrapper here is a container, which now the internal feature image is not going to respect that. So what we're going to do up here is we're going to grab those. So I'm going to select those there. I'm going to right click and I'm going to tell it to variabilize that. That's going to create a set of variables up the very top here that we can use further down the DOM. So let's see how we'd align the image. So we go to the media wrapper and we're going to do R and we're going to do display flex. Okay, and I'm just going to use this to get the actual alignments. So we're going to go column, align, and we're going to do text align. And now what we're going to do here is instead of using these values here, we're going to actually use the variables from further up on the home hero. So if I do a --_h, I can see my home hero align items. So that actually is selectable further down the DOM. Put them in the wrong place. I'm going to do a --_ home hero align items, and this one here would be --_ home hero text align. So we're going to use these variables down there. Okay, that's that done. We'll do the same with the footer wrapper. In fact, I might even just copy the whole rule there. And how and where you put these is entirely up to you. Now we've got everything centered, everything is ready to go. I'm going to hide that there, and everything's in the center. Now on our home hero, let's say for example we decide we want actually a left aligned variant of our home hero. What we can do there is we can go to our home hero, point at the home hero class, create variant, and it's going to give us a variant. Well, I'm going to call that left, align left. Let's go line left, and then I'm going to change that to flex start, and I'm going to change that to left. Okay, and that's actually aligned that. It hasn't aligned this one. Why is that? Because maybe we set that manually. We didn't do the variables. Home hero. Actually, we're not going to do it that way because this is a reusable block. We're actually going to do the same on here. We're going to variabilize that, and we're going to override these here. So the title block, align items, we're going to override. So I'm just thinking through as I do this. Okay, yep, because that's a sub-component, we want it to have its own controls. We want it to have its, we don't want it to, that could be in our home hero, it could be in a content block, it could be in a section heading, it could be anywhere, so we want it to have our own control. So we're going to have our own control for that, but we're going to access it from up here. So I'm going to now go up to the top here to home hero. I'm going to do a capital R underscore, and we're going to target our, where is it, title block, and we're going to set the --t title block align items to our --underscore home hero align items, and then we're going to set our title block text align to our home hero text align. Okay, now that should have worked. Why have you not updated here? Let's just refresh this browser. Okay, so I've messed something up there. What have I messed up? Home hero, we're targeting home hero line items, and then the title block here. That should be working, unless I've done something further here. Let's have a look on the front end. See what's going on with that. Okay, here's our title block. Center, center. Title block align items. It's saying that doesn't exist. Saying that doesn't, title block align items doesn't exist. What have I done or not done? So title block. We don't need to, there we go. Sorry, I was targeting the same element. I forgot about that. So we're overriding these variables, so we don't need to target the element itself. We need to override those variables here. So that's title block align items. If we go down to a title block, that's our override, so we don't actually have to target that element. We set that from anywhere above it, and it will override. So that was my mistake. So now we have that set up. I can go to my root up here, and I can change that there. So here's my line left. I'm going to lock that. I'm going to now remove that, and we're back to our center. I'm going to go back to my home hero, and I'm going to create another variant called align right. And on that, I'm going to do the flex end and right. Okay, so now we have a variant which I'll lock as well, where we want everything to align to the right. How simple is that? And we're just going to remove that because we want everything centered for this particular example. Okay, so we're getting there in creating a layout. This would be done really, really quickly if I wasn't talking through and explaining everything as I go. But we've got some reusable parts in here now. So I'm going to look at the heading. I'm going to look at my title block. And now that I've got some reusable parts in there, I'm going to look at what else can I set up as components. Now, actual using these as actual bricks components. Dual button would be handy, wouldn't it? So I'm going to right click on the dual button. I'm going to save that as a component, and I'm going to put it in the buttons category. Create that. So we have a dual button. We've got two buttons in there, and now we're going to use another BRXProd feature, which is basically creating our variants here and our options in here. I think I already created Did I create a compact? No, I didn't. So let's actually create a variant on there. So let's grab the dual buttons. Oh, I didn't actually put the text size on there. Let's do a font size, fs of inherit. Okay, so we've got a font size of inherit there and a gap of content gap. I'm going to just grab or select those, right click and variabilize, and I end up with these variables here now. And now I'm going to create a variant, and on that variant I'm going to call it compact. And on compact, what do we want the font size to be? We want it to be text small, and we want our component gap to be a divided by 2, and press tab. That gives us the calc. So we've got a compact version there now. I'm going to remove that. Okay, so we're going to add a property for that. I'm just going to add a property called style. And this will be global classes. We'll call that style. Style. And our options, we're going to add a compact. And we're going to use compact. And we're going to allow multiple, so in case we add some other stuff in there, okay? So we now have a variant for that. I'm going to set that to be style, compacts. Yep, that'll do. And create. And then we're going to link that up to our button and just stick that onto the style there. And just to show you how that works, we're back at the editor here, style, compact, and we have a compact button in our group there. Okay, so let's edit here again. Now this is a BRXProd feature. If we go into the components, you can see a lot of stuff here you wouldn't normally see in Bricks, to do with copying the group, duplicating the group, save it as a property set, delete the group. On the actual items, you can copy the property. If you do that, you can paste the property. We also have a copy all groups up here, which gives us a paste. This one here is the one we're going to use, which is our property sets. We're going to click on that, and we want a button. So I'm going to click on button, and that enters that into there. You can close that now. I'm going to call this button 1. It gives us all the settings we want for button 1. And by the way, if you create anything here and you've got all these properties here and you want to save it as a property set like this, all you have to do is, once you've created it, hit the save as property set, give it a name. Actually, we'll give it the name, give it this name here, and then you will have that available in your property sets. If you want to make it available in other sites, you go to select that one that you want to export it, and then import it into another site. Okay, so we have all these button properties added now. We'll call that button 1. We're going to duplicate that group, and we're going to call that button 2. Alright, now we need to link them up to the buttons. So we're going to start from the hide. So we're going to use the unconnected here. We're going to go to button 1, into our hide button 1, hide button 1, 2, hide button 2, hide button 2. We'll go back to there, and we're going to text button 1, size button 1, style button 1, circle button 1, outline button 1, link button 1, icon button 1. So it's a bit tedious, but nowhere near as bad as it was before you did this, right? Now we're going to go to button 2, do the same thing. We're going to do a text button 2, size button 2, style button 2, circle button 2, outline button 2, link button 2, and icon button 2. So we have a set ready to go, and then we can go back and set defaults if we want. So on the say the size, we'll leave those. Say style, for example, let's say we want our button 2 style to be a secondary, so I'm going to set our default there by go to no default value. On our button 2, we're going to select the that is secondary, save, and then on the button 2 outline, we're going to set that to be on. This is the default, save. So that is going to be our secondary button 2 now. Now we have a reusable component for a button set, which is called dual button, where we have this, go button 1, and we want that to be size of small, style of light. We want it to be a circle button with the outline. How easy is that? You just created a reusable component that is a substructure of our home hero here. So firstly, we created a BEM structure using a BEM block name and BEM elements. We then created some BEM modifiers, and then we added it as a bricks component and set our properties on it. So that is ready to go. I'm just going to remove those settings off there. So we just have a standard button, dual button there. And we're going to do the same thing with our eyebrow. Our eyebrow, we're going to right click on that and we're going to save that as a component. We're going to call this decoration. Decorations, create. Okay, we got a basic eyebrow. Now, what do we have in our eyebrow? We've basically got a text box, haven't we? So if we go into our properties, we're going to add a property, which is going to be a basic text. I'm going to chuck that in there, and we will link that up, link that up. Where's our links? So I'm going to link that, hide. Actually, don't want to hide it. We don't need that. Properties, we don't need the hide because we're going to always have that there. So we're going to delete that. Text, we will link to there. What else do we link? What other property did we have? The link. We're not going to use a link on that, I don't think. So all we have is the text for that. Now we need to go and set our default, and I would say change this eyebrow. Okay, save. That's our default. Now we want some variants on that now. So let's have a look at our eyebrow here, and we created basically a set of basic rules. Now I'm going to select all of those except for the flex at the top here. I'm going to right click in it and I'm going to tell it to variabilize that. Now that creates our settings block here with our locally scoped variables, with our overrides and our defaults, and it updates all of these. So now this is ready for creating variants. So I'm going to create the first variant, which I'm going to call primary. So I'm just going to create variant, I'm going to call that primary. Okay, now on our primary, I'm going to, all we need is the text. Change that, the color, all of these, and I'm going to change that to primary and be our primary text color. And now we have a primary variant. So I'm going to lock that, and remove that, and then I'm going to no, there's a quicker way to do this. I should have done this. I'm going to create a variant called secondary. Secondary, same deal. Secondary. So I've got a secondary variant now. I'm going to lock that, and I'm going to remove that. Now I'm going to go back to here. I'm going to make a compact version. So I'm going to create a variant, and we're going to make this a We don't need the color, don't need the direction, we do need the font size. Now, we need the font weight, doesn't matter, spacing we will use, and the rest we won't use. Okay, so we've got it on text M by default. If I click on that and just press my arrow down key, it goes to the next step. If I press arrow down, it goes to the next step again. Okay, so I'm just going to make it S, and then we're going to reduce the letter spacing by 1 pix to make it a compact version. And we're going to lock that, and we're going to remove that. All right, so simple sort of things that we can do, and we can create so many variants. We can have underlines, overlines, border radiuses, pill shapes, all that sort of stuff. And I'm going to show you one way to do that. We're going to create a style which is going to be all of those. Well, not all of those. Let's say create a variant, and on this variant we're going to make the background. We'll call this T4. So we'll do a primary T4 for our background. Border, we'll make that 2 pixels. Solid, make it T4 as well, primary T4 maybe, so get a bit of a border radius, full. And this is the Bricks wireframes framework, by the way, just transposed to make it more useful. We don't want a box shadow, eyebrow color, make that we'll just make that maybe A11Y. This isn't probably the best way of doing it, because A11Y is calculated based on a solid background color. We don't know what's going to be behind the transparency, but I'm going to do A11Y primary. I'm going to use my A11Y primary text value there, which would be the highest contrast you have, whether it's a light or dark, against that background color. That's automatically calculated. Flex direction we don't need. Font size we'll leave. Font weight, let's make that bold. Letter spacing we won't change. Line height we won't change. Let's set the order to -1. Puts it up there. And leave the text transform as it is as well. We missed a couple of things here. Where is our padding? Okay, let's go back in here and add a couple. So PI of 0, PB of 0. Okay, so we add those, we're going to right click on those, and we're going to variabilize those as well. And because they're already there, what we're going to do is we're going to copy the padding variables there. I'm going to copy those to the clipboard with Control C, go back to my variant there, and what I do here, instead of just doing Control V or Command V on a Mac, I do Control Alt V, and it'll transpose that by pasting in the override and the default. And there we can set our PB to maybe 0.1 EM, not 0.1, 0.1 EM, and maybe we're going to set the PB to 0.2 EM. It's a typical pill sort of a thing. Maybe it's 0.3. There we go. So we have, actually I forgot to name that, I'll call it style 1. Okay, and now we're going to remove that as well. Okay, so there's multiple ways we can add this now to the component. What we're going to do is we're going to add a style. Do we have a style? Did we create a style group? We did not. Okay, so I'm going to go in here. I'm going to create a new global classes. I'm going to call this style. Call it group style. I'm just going to use a single property for this. You can split it out into different properties if you want to. And option, we're going to use primary -p. That's either primary, or just call this primary. We're going to use secondary -secondary. What else do we have? Compact. dash dash compact. No, we didn't do a compact. I thought we did. Okay, we'll come back to that. Maybe we'll just do type eyebrow. What did we do there? Oh, we must have forgotten to name it. Okay, I'll come back to that. I'll just put that on there. And we'll come back to the next one, which was style. Style 1. And eyebrow style 1. And we're just going to save that. And we're going to link that now to the top level here. Style. Okay. Now let's go back to that eyebrow. Eyebrow variant. That was our compact. So I forgot to unlock. I forgot to name that. So I'm going to call that compact. Okay. So that's fixed. Lock it again. And remove it. Okay. Now we have an eyebrow in our home hero here where we have, why do we have the style on there? Did I forget to take it off? I did. Eyebrow. Why do we have that on there? Eyebrow. Maybe that's just bricks rendering. Let's just save that and do an F5. Okay, there we go. All right, so it's just bricks rendering. So there we go. So I'm going to change this to new eyebrow text. New eyebrow text. In our style, I'm going to say that it is a primary, it is compact, and it is style 1. Okay, we can get rid of the primary actually because that didn't let us do everything there. That's what's going on. Let's have a look at our properties. Oh, sorry, I forgot. I did this wrong. When you're doing multiple options, I forgot to select multiple options. I did do it correctly. Save. Okay, let's try now. So on our eyebrow, so you can say style 1, and we could say compact if we wanted to do as well. Take the style 1 off, and we just make that primary, or we make that secondary. Okay. We're going to add one more to that, which I forgot about, which is our order. So I'm going to go back into my style here. I'm going to add my order. Oh, actually, did we even create that? I don't think we did. Let's go into there and create a variant. We'll go order top. Okay, what do we want in the order? Just the eyebrow order. -10. Okay, gonna lock, remove. Okay, in here we're going to call it order top, order top, order top, save. Okay, now in our style we can actually order top. So we've now got a compact, secondary, order top, eyebrow. All right. So we're getting there pretty quickly. Now we do the same with our heading by adding in some properties for our heading. By when we turn the, if we turn this title block into a component, we'd do exactly the same thing. We'd add properties for the heading We can add a toggle to hide or show the eyebrow, hide or show the buttons, and we create a title block which we can use everywhere. So we're just building up slowly from the smallest, adding into the biggest, and this would be the next logical step. But that's enough on that topic, I think, for now. All right, now the next thing we're going to do is another cool little feature in here, which is the way we handle background images. So on this media wrapper, I'm going to add a couple of classes here. Now that media wrapper there, we're going to just thinking how I'm going to do this so it's scalable, because that goes to the full width, so that it's scalable. Okay, let's make that there, make it full, so it goes to full width, and then we're going to set the width on that to be 100%, so it fills that media wrapper, and I'll show you a way that we can manage this much better. Okay, so I'm going to edit that text. This is a very long heading that needs to wrap. Okay, very long heading that needs to wrap with all the typos in there. There's a very long heading that needs to wrap. Okay, let's look at how we're going to now navigate aligning all of this content. We're going to use a BRXProd feature called Rails. So we're going to go to our top home hero there, and we're going to initialize our Rails by adding Rails as our BRXP Rails to the top there, and you can see by default it sticks everything into the content position. It's all documented in the documentation. So we got content, wide, breakout, layout, and then full. Actually, let me just hide this bar here. So we've got a little bit more screen real estate there so you can see what that's actually doing. So the default is the content area. So that has wrapped because the box that it's in is in the content area. Okay, so that what that does is from that parent there that we put the rails on, each of its children are considered to be a rail, and they fit within a content area, so a named content area. And we've got a little helper for this as well, but I can, with the media wrapper for example, we can just add a class. If I add rail and we say we want that rail to go wide, we want it to go to breakout, we want it to go layout, we want it to go full, we can just add this class and that will automatically do that for us. Or we can enable a helper here, which is our content debug there. Enable our helper, which you can use Alt-Shift-V for, and that gives us the markers there, and then we get these little drag handles. So I could drag that to there, that to there, or we want it a bit wider, we can go there, go to there. Okay, and we can control where these sit simply by doing that. And then what we can do then is, if we have a look at the preview here, we can see these collapse in on themselves. So from the full to our layout, to our breakout, to our wide, to our content, you watch how it collapses in on itself. So it just collapses in on itself nicely as we work through the viewport width. So that is how I would manage my content in these here. Okay, now that we have that, now that we have that, I'm going to look at making this scalable within its box as well. Actually, it already is, I think. Let's have a look here. That's already okay because it's a kind of a fixed ratio image. But let's look at a background image. Let's add a background image. I'm going to add an image. I'm going to call this my BG image here. And on that image, I'm going to need this UI to select it, and let's do maybe this cafe thing here. Insert that. There's an image. We're going to make that full, And we want to use that full image as a background. Actually, I'll just hide those layout helpers. We want to use that as a background for our home hero. We get our home hero, we add has BG media. We go to this image here, we add has BG media media, and we have a background image behind our home hero. And you can do that in any container. So you can have a cell that has the background image in it, and you just use those same classes to add that to the cell. All right, so there we go. We have some content there with a background image. From here, if you wanted to, you can still use the Bricks UI for adding an overlay, add a color, make that a black with some transparency. Whoops. You can still use this feature here if you want to. You can use the Bricks UI to do that, or you can use our BRXProd features, which is, we're going to, on that home here, I'm just going to collapse everything. And I'm going to create a new root block, and here I'm just going to call it R, and we'll put a little title over that. I'm going to go overlay. You can put them all in the same root block, or you can organize them into these. And those, I'm going to go position, rel. Actually, we already have the has BG media on there, which has position relative isolate. So we don't need to do this, but we don't want to assume that we've got that background positioned image. So we're just going to do that. Overflow clip. Okay, and now we're going to use a type ahead to give us a before or after pseudo, but we want to append that to our root in the CSS nesting. So we're going to use the and to append to the root, and then we're going to use 2 colons, B for before, and we get our little ghost hint. We press the tab key, and we've got a bit of a starter there. If I just do another utility, which is BG-R tab, I've got a background red. We can see that sitting on top of our background image, but underneath our content. That's exactly where it needs to be. Okay, great. Now we are cooking with gas, so we're going to use our gradient generator. And our gradient generator, we want to go to from transparent. Let's go to a D9. So we'll use a primary D9. Again, these are from BRXProd converted. We'll put you up the top there and make you a little bit bigger. Okay, maybe a bit bigger again. And we'll come down bottom here as well. And this is where it's good to have 2 screens, because you can actually detach this to another screen as well. Okay, oh, we're going to get rid of that. Yeah, let's get rid of our gradient overlay. So that is there. Now let's go back to there, go back to our gradient generator, and let's put another one down the bottom. So let's go down the bottom here. And by the way, you can just switch between these as a preview, and let's use our D8, and use our secondary D8 maybe, and we're going to have that sitting on the bottom there. That's pretty ugly, but it shows you how easy it is to add these gradients as you go. Now let's add a texture. So we've used our before. Now we can collapse that to get it out of the way, and just use the after now. And after, tab, and this time we're going to use a texture. Let's use a grid. I'm going to go to my SVG pattern generator, go to a grid. I'm going to go background of transparent, foreground, or let's do our primary again. And actually use the full primary, and then we can set our sizing and everything of that as well. Okay, there it is there. So we have a background texture. Now, because that background texture is a background image, if we go after that last comment, we can go back into our gradient generator, and we can say we want this to be a mask, and we want to go from a use color picker, we want it to be from white, and we want you to be from the right hand side. Okay, and now we can see we have a texture coming from the right hand side with a mask on it. And if I just preview that on a full screen, let's see how we're going. So we've created a component, which is a dual button, so we can control that button, which is reusable. We've created a component, which is a eyebrow, which we can make however we want it and make it super flexible. We didn't get to making this whole title blocker component, but it's the same technique. We've added a background image, which is a real image. We've added a texture, which is a SVG with a mask on it. And we've aligned all of our content to a named set of grid lines. And that's a hero. I mean, it's not the most beautiful hero, but it is the hero done. So I think that is enough for this. We've been going for nearly an hour now. So, and honestly, I would have had this done in 5 minutes or less if I wasn't talking through and explaining it to you. So there's a lot more that I can explain, but the last time I spent doing this, I spent 3 hours with somebody and barely scratched the surface of what we could do. So I think this is enough to get you kicked off into how to create the benefits of using this CSS panel, some of the features of that CSS panel, how to create variants, how to create components and use those variants. And I think that's a lot to take in one session. So I'm going to leave it at that, and I hope you like this kind of content. If there's anything you think that we need to improve or anything you really like, I'd love to hear your feedback. Just chuck it in the comments and give us a like. Thanks, guys.